All right, here we go with the episode 1139 Q&A slash rewind video. So let's get into the Q&A. There's one question slash comment for the actual episode 1138. That's HIG. Just so you know, there's no episode of One Piece this Sunday, August 31st. Well, that's terrible news. These bastards. So we're not getting 50 a year. We're getting at most probably 45 a year, maybe 40. We get what we get. I'm just saying, like, I have to revise my estimates downward, obviously. Because it feels like once a month we're getting a rewind episode. As we move forward, I'll get a better sense of it. But that's the way it seems right now. It will be a recap episode instead. Episode 1142 comes out the next week on Sunday, September 7th. So, including 1139, which I'm doing now, you have 3 episodes left until you're caught up. And then episode 1142 next week will probably be your first episode as a weekly viewer. Yep, I'm going to have to crash production on my rewatch some other story arc idea. Need to get on that right now. So I'll probably be doing that this weekend. Because we're running out of road here. These comments are also from HIG. And this first comment is exactly what I was looking for. I couldn't remember what was said, who told me, when it was said. And he's talking about it as far as like the Luffy's parents. What Odo said was that we have seen Luffy's parents with the S in parentheses before. Close quote. And that was before it was revealed Dragon was Luffy's dad. And indeed, we had seen Dragon in Logtown before. So, yeah, I think that's it right there, right? I don't think we've seen his mom. Plus, this was long before we went to the Amazon Lily, right? So Oda may have only been talking about Dragon, one parent. Or he may have been talking about Dragon and Luffy's mom, 2 parents. There's no way to know because Japanese doesn't always make a distinction between singular and plural. So when Odo answered the question, have we seen Luffy's parents before? And he said yes. He may have been talking about one parent or both. Yeah, I mean, that's our conundrum, isn't it? I think it's probably just, I don't think we're going to see the mom. I think it's probably just the dad. This show doesn't really care about bloodlines for the most part. They did the Ace reveal, then did nothing with it by killing Ace off immediately. Luffy's father being the leader of the Revolutionary Army has had no impact on the plot as far as I can see. Nobody's targeting Luffy because of who his dad is. Nobody's targeting his dad because of who Luffy is. People barely talk about it. Robin spent time with him, came back, and we've not seen an on-screen conversation between her and Luffy. And I know some people are annoyed that I keep bringing this up. I'm just saying, my point is, the show doesn't care. If the show doesn't care, I've kind of not been bringing it up as much, because if the show doesn't care, why should I care? So I don't think it matters who his mom is. I don't think we'll ever find out. Unless we get a backstory, like a Dragon backstory, flashbacks. Like maybe the next arc, Dragon is leading the invasion into Mary Joyce or whatever the place is where the Celestial Dragons are. Is it Celestial Dragons? It is Celestial Dragons. We've got Dragon attacking the Celestial Dragons. Interesting. That can't be a coincidence. He named him on purpose. Interesting. That is interesting, actually. Okay, so we've got Dragon attacking the Celestial Dragons, and then in the middle of that arc, we'll probably have a series of episodes flashing back to his whole life. They'll explain who the mom is. They'll explain why he doesn't want anything to do with Luffy. They'll explain shit that we can't even... They'll answer questions we didn't even think to ask. Because think about Kumi's backstory. There were questions it never occurred to us to ask before that story arc. Like, does he have children? When did he join the Revolutionaries, and why did he leave the Revolutionaries to join the Warlords? That's probably a question I did ask. But, I did ask the question, why would he give up his free will? But there was no information. There's no way to posit a guess. We should have figured, like, what typically happens in these flashbacks is that there will be a reveal that feels a little bit obvious after the fact, but you couldn't imagine before that. Like, Kuma having a daughter. Seems obvious now. clearly the love for another person would motivate these actions, but it didn't occur to me before that. I never had that guess. So we've seen that with Toy Soldier. We've seen that here. We've seen Luffy's love for Ace motivating. Like, love for other people has constantly motivated characters throughout the course of the series. So, what if Luffy has a secret sister? And Dragon was protecting the secret sister by having nothing to do with Luffy. Not bringing attention to Luffy. Now, obviously, like, children are weakness and there's all that. That could be all there is to it. But I bet there's going to be there's going to be a secret bombshell we never thought it never occurred to us to ask about that will be in Dragon's flashbacks. He has a secret. Maybe he has a sister. We don't see much sibling action here either in this series. Even when the medic was revealed to me that Alpha is the sibling of the dragon bitch, nothing's made of it. They've never shared a scene. And I'm much more interested in sibling relationships than I am parental relationships because I had good relationships with my parents. I didn't have good relationships with my siblings. So I want to explore what I didn't have. I want to get fictional closure on my real life, things. That's why most of my stories are about siblings. Very rarely did I even delve into parental-children relationship either direction, right? Siblings, I think, is an underutilized aspect of life across the board. People would much rather have either parents and children or lovers. But the sibling relationship can be closer than any of those because the only people who know how you grew up in a childhood, like now most of the children in these stories, they don't grow up the same in childhood, but just a general statement. The only people who know what your life was like, who will be with you presumably for most of your life, because they're going to be around your age. Your parents are not going to presumably be with you most of your life. Now, my best friend, she's 39. Her parents are both parents are still around. She had all four of her grandparents until about 3 years ago, so she had never known any kind of like loss. But that's atypical. Usually, the parents are gone by now. The siblings aren't. She has a sister who's 3 years younger than her and a brother who's like 7 years younger than her. They're going to be with her whole life. Her parents won't be. So they know how you grew up. They know how you were as a kid. They know how you were in school. And now they are with you here as adults. Siblings are the only people who are there for all that. They're the only people who can truly relate to you on a molecular level. They know you better than anybody on earth knows you. Better than your parents know you. Because your parents aren't going to be around to see you as an adult. Dad never saw me start a reaction channel. If my siblings had been with me the whole time, they would have. My best friend I met him in 95. So what are we talking about? It's 30 years now at this point. So my best friend of 30 years knows me better than anybody on earth, but doesn't truly know me because he wasn't there for my childhood. Only siblings fit that bill. And it's so underutilized in fiction. You got people, like I saw it used in Dexter to great effect. Your siblings know you back and forth, up and down. They know where you started from and they know where you are now. They know what nobody else knows because you meet somebody as an adult and you present a certain front. But they don't know, maybe maybe you used to be violent when you were a kid. Maybe you used to be an asshole. And they've seen that progression. They saw where you started. My siblings would have seen me be such an asshole as a teenager and then see who I am now. So far removed from that assholeness. Preaching nonviolence and mediation and talking things through and figuring out the psychology of where a person's coming from so you can meet them where they are, not where you want them to be. All these things I am now. All these things you see me as. I'm a finished product. But siblings knew you before you were a finished product. Now, that sometimes can be to your detriment. They'll bring up old shit that you resolved, right? So, but if they're on your side, I don't think there's any greater ally in the world than a sibling because they were there the entire time. Now, like I said, they have to be on your side and they have to have had your same household throughout. But if those two things are true, I don't think there's a greater ally in the world. And it's just not done very much. If anything, it'll be some random generic motivation. Oh, you killed my brother, now I'm here to kill you. So, so they show the sibling relationship as a motivation to get vengeance or some shit. But that's pretty generic. But, like siblings can predict your behavior in ways nobody else can. They know what's traumatic for you in ways nobody else can because they were there for all of it, right? So I just think the sibling relationships are super powerful and they're so underutilized. And I think a lot of it is because a lot of people are only children. My best friend, is an only child. He never had any siblings. That's why he and I really do have a sibling. Like, we're like brothers. Like, we've been together for 30 years. We're like brothers. He never had a brother. I didn't. I'm not in contact with my brothers. It is kind of funny. I met him right after I ditched my brothers. So it's been 30 years since I've talked to my brothers. He kind of immediately fit that slot. But anyway, I don't think this show cares about parental relationships, and I don't think we're ever going to meet his mother unless it's in these flashbacks. I think we will get. I think we will get dragon flashbacks. I do think that. I think that'll be something when he's in his pivotal arc. Probably when he dies, he probably won't survive the series. When he's in his pivotal arc, we'll get this just like we did with Kuma. I never imagined we are going to get a Kuma, but now I think we're going to start seeing things we can't imagine. Like, we probably never imagined Shanks is going to get a series of flashbacks to explain some shit. Or Blackbeard. They probably both will. It could even be... Now, it could be just to the extent of Kato, where Kato had like 2 episodes, and that was about it, right? But those 2 episodes explained a lot. That could be like with Blackbeard or Shanks or something. Maybe with Dragon. But, like, I think we're going to get flashbacks. This thing with Kuma has opened my eyes for the end game. Because he's probably the biggest character we've gotten flashbacks for who we knew so little about, right? Think about it. The other people, like Toy Soldier, we just met him. He hadn't been foreshadowed. Who was before that? I don't even remember. In the Wano arc, it was the guy, the leader of the country. He got the flashbacks, and we had just met him. He may have been foreshadowed a little bit. Like there may have been a few references to him being part of Gold Roger's crew or something at some point. But other than that, I don't think there was much there. So Kuma, as far as I can remember, other than the Straw Hats themselves, is the most important character to have gotten flashbacks, and it's this far into the story. So now I think that opens the door for Shanks, Blackbeard, Dragon, right? Hell, this makes me want to do a poll right now. Which flashbacks are you most excited about? I think I will go do that. And then I'll get to these last 2 questions. Alrighty, well, let's get back into the questions. Now that I've done the poll, I'll be very excited to see what people think about that. I like that you notice the subtle reference with Atlas holding up the world, which is represented here by Kuma. Yeah, I mean, I get 1 out of every 100 references. The Atlas one was pretty obvious. I do like that he gender swapped Atlas. Also, like, I don't know if I mentioned this, the grunting she was doing when she was carrying him, so this was not an easy task. She was grunting. It reminded me of those female tennis players who grunt when they hit the ball. I don't know, it's funny. Alright, last question. With even Kuma here, we've got too many important players. And this is still HIG. That was Light Boy. He broke this down in a way that made sense to me. It's some of these translations are just terrible, man. Like, they phrase things, and this is why I always assume it is. They phrase things in such a way that you can't really figure out what the hell they're talking about. So this makes a lot more sense. Here's how his line was translated in the manga, if that makes it any clearer. And it does make it clear. I had a comment to this, and I agreed. Now that even Kuma's in the scene, I'd say we've got an abundance of players, wouldn't you? Let's finally end this. Doesn't that make so much more sense? Now that even Kuma's in the scene, I'd say we've got an abundance of players, wouldn't you? Let's finally end this. That makes so much more damn sense than with even Kuma here, we've got too many important players. Which I guess you could assume now that I know what he actually means. So we should kill them. We've got too many important players, so we should kill them. Actually, like, you could mentally add that sentence to it, and it does make sense. They just didn't add that sentence. Huh, interesting. I just went back to make sure there wasn't any other questions from any of the other episodes. So far, nothing. So, let's go ahead and get into the episode. I'll come back for the rewind. Alright, here we go with the rewind. And, by the way, I noticed this. This is kind of ominous. This is their new ending. In how they end the theme song, right? Look at this shit. Boy, that ain't good. I guess the island's getting destroyed, huh? Shit. Which, I mean, we kind of saw that start to happen this episode. Which, I don't even know why I'm surprised, because every goddamn island they go to gets destroyed. Every village they go to, every city they go to gets destroyed. Destroyed. So, why am I shocked? One way or another, it's not always their fault, but it just always happens. Yep, destroy Egghead. The Buster Call is invoked. Yeah, I think, what was the word I heard? I can't remember. Let me listen to them say it. Hawkeye. And then they said Hawkeye later. I think Hawkeye means destroy. It could mean Buster Call, but I think it means destroy. No, he said the word Buster Call. So Buster Call means Buster Call. Hawkeye must mean destroy in Japanese. They start with this, they end with this. This seems to be a major plot point of this episode. Thematically, it's connected throughout the episode. They keep coming back to it. I don't know if this is just an underwater shot of the Navy ship being destroyed and it's going to eventually come down, or if there's something down here and we're just looking at if this is the point of view. Very clever. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would think that we're looking at the point of view of something that's down here, because we see bubbles. But it could go either way. Who the hell knows? Something tore him up, and I think there may have been a quick 1 second shot later that's a foot or something that could imply what it was. That would mean it's not something that's underwater. But we'll get there when we get there. Also, the fact that we're hearing this from underwater. You know, it also implies that the thing that did this is underwater. That's why I thought at first. That's what I thought they were doing. Because we hear this sound underwater. So we're definitely in the point of view of something that's underwater. I forgot about that. That does add context to this. I love... My favorite is the guy in the middle, the fat guy who's looking up the sky with all the teeth. He looks like a shark. You know, you see jaws coming up. You know, he's funny. And then the guy on the left is also funny. The guy on the left with the blue tie. They all have blue ties. The guy in the extreme close-up left. He's funny. These people are trying to live, man. See, my thing, I always assume somebody, when they make a demand like this, stop this attack. I always assume they're doing it from a point of view of strength, from a position of strength. He's just begging. The entire episode, he's just begging. He's just throwing himself on the mercy of the court. It's not going to work. You'd be more likely to try to talk a bear out of eating you, a starving bear. Try to talk him out of eating you when he's starving. It's not going to happen, man. You're dead as hell. You're bear meat. You're eaten. So, you know, this is a waste of time. But that's all he has. Where normally it'd be like, you know, I was never begging for my life. I was begging for yours, and then they kill him. You know, it's like, you know, I was begging you to stop so I wouldn't have to kill you. Is what I kind of thought this was. But that's not what this is. He has no power. He has no ace up his sleeve. All he has is his hope that there's one shred of humanity inside this spider geezer, and there's not, man. He don't give a shit. You can talk to your blue in the face. It's not going to make any difference. You know, it's not even going to matter with Light Boy. It's just not. He's a company man. He's a company man through and through. He's going to do what he's got to do. With one possible exception we'll get to later. Then we have this dominatrix / admiral, whatever the hell she is. What's with the spike collar, man? Like, you stepped off a brothel in New York City to put on a uniform and come out here. Like, I don't know, man. I guess that's her distinctive style, but, you know, nobody can choke her unless she wants them to. Anyway, you know, disobedient, not following orders, you have to beg her to leave, that kind of usual shit. By the way, this is something interesting. Maybe it's not disobedient as we usually see. This actually would kind of happen in real life, in a real life military. The elder is the ultimate authority, but there is a chain of command. For instance, say a president is on a Navy ship. That president can order the admiral to do whatever the hell he wants them to do. You know, president's standing there, and there's an admiral, and then there's the captain of the ship. But the president can't order the captain to do something. President can order the highest ranking military officer to do something, and they will do it. But he can't order the lower officers, because that's not the chain of command. So the president orders the admiral, turn around and go back the other way. The admiral then orders the captain, turn around and go back the other way. In fact, the captain will look at the admiral when the president issues an order like that. That's what we saw here. She wasn't disobeying a direct order. The light boy is her commanding officer in this position. He's the chain of command. He's the highest ranking military authority there. Even though the elder outranks him, she's not going to take her orders from the elder. That's not the way the chain of command works. I misinterpreted the situation. This was the elder issued an order. She turned to the admiral, and then he said, go. He confirmed the order. Once he confirms the order, she obeyed the order. So I misinterpreted the situation. I wasn't really thinking about the chain of command. I think that's what was happening here. So, hey, I withdraw my complaint. Also, speaking of misinterpreting, during my reaction, I misinterpreted this line. What he says is, won't this be all over if you just kill me? I interpreted this, I just misread it, and it's moving fast, right? I thought he said, this won't be all over if you just kill me. I thought he was then pleading for his own life. No, he's trying to exchange his life for everybody else's life. Very altruistic. He said the exact opposite of what I thought he was saying. I thought he was saying, this won't be all over if you just kill me. There's even a question mark there, right? Like, it was going by fast, so I just didn't interpret it correctly. Won't this be all over if you just kill me? That's a big statement. He's trying to exchange his life for everybody else's life. That's a big deal, man. That's, it is. So, I guess he's not as evil as I thought. Now, I saw this line, so I still got the context. But I actually missed the previous line. The Eggland houses the latest researching findings from every field of study. Every field of study. I didn't catch that. But I still caught this, so I still got the nuance. I got the gist of what he was trying to say. If you destroy Eggland, scientific progress will be set back 100 years. Now, he doesn't care about that. And this is, we might as well get into this here. The elders clearly have been holding back technological progress because we've talked about how 20 years ago, technology is the same. Before that, I think the furthest flashbacks we've ever seen is a couple hundred years and technology is the same. It doesn't seem to be advancement. They should have nuclear power by now. We don't know exactly what the technological level was in 800 years ago, but it seemed to be higher than it was now, right? So, what the hell? The same with Game of Thrones. How do you have houses spanning back 8,000 years, but there's still swords and shields and horse riding and sail ships? How is that possible? 8,000 years ago in our world, people were painting in caves. They had barely discovered tools. And I think the only tools they had were a sharp rock and a flat rock they could use as a hammer. And that's about it. That's about all they had 8,000 years ago. Now, we're walking on the moon and sending probes out of the solar system. Here, in Game of Thrones, in 8,000 years, they progressed maybe the equivalent of 100 years, 150 years for us. So something's holding them back. More than one thing. It's too much to get into here. But, there are reasons baked into the story why that's happened. There are reasons baked into this story why it's happened here. The elders don't want technological progress because what happens is technology can counter the powers of the elders and Black Hoodie. So you don't want a technological edge for your enemies. You don't want them to have technology to overthrow you or to find out shit that you did in the past, right? So progress is bad. So they're holding them right back intentionally. Why they ever tolerated him in the first place, they must be getting scared that their powers aren't enough in certain situations. So they needed some scientific progress in the military field that they could then co-opt on their own and then get rid of the guy. Because I think their plan from day one with this sumbitch was to get rid of him. The second they got the Pacificists, the second that happened, they didn't need him anymore. And the Seraphims, maybe. They didn't need him anymore. And then they found out he's violating and said, okay, well, now's a good time to say, let's get rid of this sumbitch. Yeah, I think it was always a plan to get rid of him. Always. So, yeah. They don't care. This is an interesting series of comments by this guy. See, this question doesn't get answered. Is there something more you are hiding from us? That is probably also troublesome for the government. And then he just seemingly changes the subject by saying we do not need progress. I think it's actually related. I think what he's saying is We don't trust you. We don't trust what you consider progress. And anything you consider progress is just going to be troublesome for the government now that we have your weapons. I think is essentially what he's saying. And then this is very clearly what I was just talking about. We do not need progress. They don't want it. They don't need it. So that makes total sense. If we were in their position, we would do the same thing. Yeah, assuming we were evil. And then he makes this revelation, which I think we already knew. I think we saw when he was still on the ship. He talked about send somebody after them and destroy the ship. So I think we already knew this. What we did know is that ship was going to get destroyed, the one he sent after the other ship. And then as soon as they say that, he talks about sending the ship to destroy them, because somebody on board might have learned something about the Void Sentry. They cut to this with the bubbles. Yeah, like I said, thematically relevant. And this is, we assume right now that this is a ship with the people, the refugees. What we find out later is this is actually the Navy ship. It is burned. Not cut in half, not smashed from the bottom, burned. I think that's important. Fire Fist Ace has now become Fire Fist Sabo. You think it was Sabo? You think he came back to England? Last we heard, he was with the revolutionaries. And I don't know, they don't have teleportation power anymore. I don't know how he would have got here so fast. But it's possible. No, this is the Navy ship in front and the escape ship in the past. Is this what he's thinking? Is this what he's thinking? Is this what he's imagining happening? Or is this what actually happened? It's hard to tell because he has narration over this. So this could just be his imagination. But we literally see the Navy ship in the shot. So the other ship is the one burning. Which I guess could have burned if they use incendiary rounds, right? They're trying to just make sure everybody dies. I don't know, though. I think this could just be his imagination. Vegapunk says they're innocent people. And he's like, you got them involved. As far as he's concerned, there's not innocence anymore. It's a good thing Vegapunk sent all his lab assistants away. Because we don't see them in the lab once he gets he separates his mind. We don't see those lab assistants of people, men and women in the lab coats anymore. He must have sent them somewhere else. Unless he just sent them down to the village and let them hang out there. In which case they'd be on the ship. The refugee ship. So I don't know. But yeah, anybody gets involved, they're just, they're blaming him. I don't think it's Vegapunk's fault, but I understand that they're blaming him because that's how they think, right? I didn't catch this line before. Sanji's running away. The others have gotten to the vacuum rocket, I guess it's called, because the tube is a vacuum, I guess. So there's no resistance, so it can go faster. She says, what's all that noise down there? Well, Wind of the Straw Hats not made a lot of noise. They are a loud group of people. Either they party loud, they talk loud, they laugh loud, or they're kicking ass in a very loud way. So, there's always noise. I love that question. Yeah. Yep, this is bad news. I've talked about this during the reaction. I don't have much else to add to it. But I just love that these two are the coward duo. Basically, they'll just crawl on top of each other and cry. Because they know they're going to die. Idiots. Yeah, you always pull through. The question is how many times you have to deal with the Buster Call. The question is, since you survived previous Buster Calls, why don't you believe you're going to survive this one? That's the question. And then I was talking over this. I didn't catch any of her lines. If there's anything I can do. Well, clearly you didn't do anything, so just lay back there and just keep not doing anything. Because she's not the one who helped Luffy, obviously. Even as she says it, she writes him. She says, is there things I can do? Oh! So, clearly there's nothing you can do. If just asking the question makes you be in pain again. So, just lay your ass there and recuperate. Look at Chopper jumping straight to her. It's interesting, she asks where Luffy is. And it says Frankie and Bonnie are down there too, but I don't think he answers where Luffy is. He's not in my sight, but he's fine. So, yeah, I mean, I believe the same thing. He's not in my sight either, but I believe he's fine. Then we see him a couple minutes later, right? So, sometimes you just got to believe in your friends. There's a 7 Deadly Sins episode I recently saw where that wasn't the case. He didn't believe in his friends. And so I chastised him very harshly about that. Believe in your goddamn friends. That's just how I feel about it. Hey, he's keeping Lucy back from the rest of us. What is he doing that shitty moss head? Jimmy is in there to put a stop to that, so that ought to be fun. I assume he's going to knock their heads together. Hey, they're going to destroy the island, you idiots. We ain't got time for this shit. This is a great idea. This was fantastic. They're living their best life. Roller skating ship. You know, why not? Frankie built the bow of the ship very tough. I don't know why it doesn't topple over. Maybe when we do a wide shot, we can see a better idea why. But yeah, hilarious. Well, to me, moving a ship over land is a piece of cake. Yeah, yep. And I like that Lilith at first is very happy and cheerful about all this until she realizes she's dealing with an effing idiot. By the way, the voiceover actor for Brooke is absolutely incredible. The way he said "piece of cake," he shifted his voice, and then the laugh is hilarious. Peak excellence for the voice of Brooke. Peak. She's actually happy. You know, this is amazing, Bone. You're very smart. Boy, does that not last. I like her when she's cheerful, but it never lasts very long because she's an angry, angry person. With this, we'll reach the rear entrance in no time. Excellent. Yeah, this. I thought we'd get a wide shot. We're only seeing a side shot where it's not clear why it's not tipping over. I don't know. This doesn't really show us the bottom of the ship, so we can't tell why it's not tipping over. Freezing island clouds and letting the ship slide on them was a great idea. I agree. Yeah, that was brilliant. It's an honor to be praised by the world's greatest genius. Yeah, you know what? You're about 3 seconds away from an ass whipping. So let's get to that. This is fun, and how are we going to stop? Here it is. This is the last cheerful moment before she starts letting loose with the hands. She's gonna kick his ass. What a goddamn idiot. I like how they do the back and forth cutting. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. She's starting to realize, wait a minute, I'm dealing with a moron. Look at her. You do have a plan, right? Right? Oh, I haven't thought about that. Wow. There's got to be a way, right? Like, you know, we have all these various powers with all these different people. Somebody should be able to stop the damn ship, but you should have thought of that, yes. There it is. Domestic violence. Boy, oh boy. When she goes vampire teeth, that's when you know it's on. That's right. She stomped him out. Now he's asking her what you should do. Man, that's not the plan. The plan is you start it, you finish it, right? Yeah, she's not going to think of anything. Now, Luffy can stop him. Just send his little rubber arms out and attach themselves to trees or whatever. Robin can stop him, but she's out of commission. Luffy ain't around. You could probably go out there. Those boots also, double as jetpacks. Go out there to the front of the ship, use your jetpacks, and you can probably slow it down. Especially if Atlas is with you, which she's probably not going to be because she's fallen to the earth. So, but it's an idea. We never really see. It looks like it's just on the bow of the ship. This looks like the point of the bow, which is probably about 6 feet wide, maybe. The entire ship's weight is balanced on that, which would never happen. So I do wonder what's causing the momentum. So maybe a little bit of like thrust is coming out the back, which could help keep it balanced. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just think it's interesting. Trying to figure it out and what they showed. They don't show how it's doing it. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I guess I hadn't really put it together. He's like, the barrier is still up on the lab phase, so target the urban area. Destroy what you can destroy. We'll get to the lab phase later, I guess, is what his idea. I didn't really put that together, but that's what he was doing there. So then we get to Luffy, who's been to Big Belly Burger. That's such a great shot. Look at this. So here, several things about this. Apparently he doesn't eat bones. I mean, I think that was probably negotiable, given what a garbage gut he is. But he doesn't eat bones, so that's probably smart. He drank a lot of soda. I'm seeing at least 4 cups of soda, right? But here's my question. Okay, I don't know the answer to this. Sometimes I'll ask questions where I have a very strong opinion, one way or another. I don't have a strong opinion here. I'm curious because I don't think this is something that can happen in real life. But you have a scar, and then you were somehow able to stretch your skin. Wouldn't the scar get smaller the more you stretch the skin? Am I crazy? Wouldn't it? Maybe it would get, the scar would get smaller and skinnier. It would stretch with the skin, but it wouldn't get thicker. Look at this scar. Look how thick it is, right? Shouldn't that be like really skinny and really stretched out, if at all? Like I don't think the scar grows when you stretch your skin. I don't think. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think about that. Like, it's just such a minor detail. I don't give a shit. I'm just curious. Like I said, I don't think we have a real world use case other than like people getting old who have tattoos. I know that when you get old and you have tattoos and your skin stretches, they do look different. And like, especially if it's writing, suddenly the writing becomes unintelligible, or like a robin suddenly looks like a dinosaur or some shit. I don't know. There's been jokes about it, and I think there's been a couple parody songs talking about that. But yeah, here he is. He's eating too much. He probably should have paced himself. But they're setting him up to come back, and we have the minor mystery who fed him. And I'm thinking, again, it doesn't matter who fed him. If they never answer that question, I think it'd be fine. I am very curious who it is, though. I care a lot about who fed him. It's not Robin. Like, Robin was my choice. Clearly not her. They demonstrated that. Who the hell was it? But, he's going to be good to go and good to come back, I think, next episode, the episode after that, right? So, we just kind of touch base with him for a minute, He's so funny in this scene. Like, I've eaten too much, there ain't shit I can do. Interesting. I didn't notice this in the episode, in my watch. He's in front of a cooking machine. Now, he couldn't move, right? He couldn't move because, like, considering where he is, he could have fed himself. But it looked like when he was the old man version of himself that he literally just couldn't move. So then once he started eating, then he started using his arms and his hands to feed himself. But, like, maybe what happened is somebody dragged him over here and started the process of the food coming out, and then he was able to continue after that. He was able to pick what he wanted and all this shit. I didn't notice that he was in front of a cooking machine before. I also love that this cooking machine has a huge cup of soda there, right? So clearly we're here where he got all those cups of soda. This is an action-heavy episode, so there's not a whole lot to say. They're just blowing shit up, right? They spend a lot of the episode just blowing shit up. But this is a very, very nice shot. I had to make a note of this. We've got the Pacificus's eye reflecting the burning that turns into Vegapunk's eye. That is some nice work. I've mentioned this many times. I think, and I've never directed an animation episode, I think the degree of difficulty for directing an animation episode, or whoever's responsible for storyboarding what this is going to look like, I think it's the director in most cases. Because you've got your script. And I've never really seen animation scripts either, so I don't have a lot of knowledge on this. But I imagine if it's anything like, for instance, action scenes in live action scripts don't describe what the action is going to be. I've mentioned this before. They fight. It'll be like they fight. After 30 seconds, Smedley has broken his ankle, and Lilith has emerged victorious, and she stands over him ready to kill him. That's what it would say. But then when you actually watch the movie, you would see 30 seconds of choreography, some really cool shit, some flips, bounce off the wall, come back behind her, and then she turns and breaks his ankle. Like, you would see all the cool-ass choreography. That shit you see is not in the script. The fight choreographer and the director, sometimes the assistant director. Some directors don't care about action, so they'll let the assistant director and the fight choreographer figure out what it's going to be. He'll be there to direct it. They'll run it past him, of course. But a lot of them don't care about the nuts and bolts. Well, what if they flip on the wall here instead of here? And what if we do a camera turn right here at this? Like, all that. A lot of directors don't give a shit. So, but anyway, it's not in the script. It'll just say they fight. They fight. Then Like I said, somebody gets their ankle broken, and then the other person's victorious, and then you get back to the detailed. The rest of the script is so detailed, fighting, dancing, um, car chases, those kinds of things don't tend to be have the details in the script. They get figured out with other departments. Here with the animation scripts, and I said I don't know for a fact because I never want to try to mislead you. Think I'm talking from a position of authority when I don't know. I don't know. But I'm imagining the script will just say something like the Pacificuses are blowing up. Now, you do have the original manga to base it off of, okay? So maybe this was in the manga, but the script could say, the Pacificuses are blowing the island up, then we go back to Vegapunk. And then the directors looked at that, okay, so the Pacificuses are blowing the island up. Then we're back to Vegapunk. What if we show the eye of the Pacificus, we show the island's on fire, and then we turn that into Vegapunk's eye, and that's how we get from one scene to the next. Now, like I said, it could have been in the manga. So whoever thought this up, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was so well executed too. I really love it a lot. Because I started about halfway through this conversation. I was like, wait a minute, we do have the manga that's basically a storyboard. It's a rough storyboard. You need more panels in an actual storyboard than you get in a manga. But like, for instance, say Futurama. The Futurama script would just say, we go from this scene to this scene, and the director would be like, hey, what if we do this cool transition? But Futurama isn't based off a manga. It's not an adaptation. It's an original animation. So the director is more impressive there than they would be here, because here they're going off basically a rough storyboard. So this is probably, the original author probably did this in some way, right? They show one eye in one panel on fire, and then in the next panel will be his eye on fire. That could be exactly what happened. I'm not sure. Whoever did that, it was really cool. I'm still kind of cold on him. I know that it's probably annoying to some people who are like, but he had all this character development. He cares so much, and he's definitely against the government, what the government's doing. He's not a cruel person, etc., etc. I get all that. He got in bed with evil people, and he knew they were evil, and he did it anyway because he wanted funding. He said that to Dragon. I can't go with you. I'm going with them because they have the money I need for my research. He said that. He knew who he was getting in bed with. That's a choice he made. And people died as a result of his inventions. So that's on him. I love that he feels bad. I love that he's staying up to them now. And I love how passionate he is. I love that he's willing to trade his life for the lives of the people on the island. That's all fantastic stuff, man. He may be the most morally complex character we've ever had on the show, because Hunter Stone, I think, said it, where most of the people are black and white morality. They're good or they're bad. He is the most morally complex character I think we've ever had. So I appreciate that. And so, like, my reaction to him is gonna be all over the place because he's all over the place. Like, I love his strong moments, and I hate his weak moments, like when he went with the government instead of went with Dragon. So I tell you, man, this is really good stuff. This is another. Speaking of morally complex, he's another one who's kind of like that. Again, no, you can only feel but some kind of way about this sumbitch. They emphasize he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it, but he's going to do it. So, do you care if you get murdered that the person who murders you doesn't want to do it? That if it's his choice, he wouldn't do it, and that he feels bad for doing it, and he's going to probably not sleep well for a while because he did it? Do you care? I guess it makes a little bit of a difference, rather than somebody who's like, "Ooh, good, yeah, now I get to murder this person." Like, there is a difference, but it's marginal. You're still dead. Dead people don't give a shit. So, at the end of the day, you're still a piece of shit if you do it regardless. But, I wonder, is he following orders because he believes in some, the Navy is a higher power and loyalty is all, and I gave my word I was going to, when I took an oath of office, I gave my word I was going to do whatever in perpetuity, and that's all this is? Or does he follow orders because he knows that Saturn will stomp his ass out if he doesn't follow orders? Is it fear? I think it's loyalty. I think he took an oath, and that's it. and he doesn't even think about it. Like he just, well, he thinks about it a little bit here, but he's gonna follow orders no matter what. I'm kind of that way. Like if I gave my word, I'm gonna serve this person or this organization or this country or whatever, I'm keeping it. You give your word, you keep it. That's just what you do. I'm pretty much that way. That's why I don't give my word very often. I'm not going to pledge my allegiance to an organization. I would have to really know them well. I'm not going to pledge my allegiance to a person. I have to really know them well because I tend to want to just be loyal. That's just my inclination. So I understand where he's coming from, but he just did it, and I don't think he examined who he was pledging his word to. And then here he is. So he can turn his mouth up all he wants to. He still needs to die screaming. That's how I feel about it. But again, another morally complex character. And this is interesting. They both get distracted. He's going to come save Vegapunk, which he has no chance of doing against Light Boy. But then, like we see in a minute here, and I talk about this during the reaction, Light Boy took the... You could say he made an informed choice. This is a higher priority target than following this order to kill Vegapunk. But I still believe, I could be wrong, I still believe he made that choice to give Vegapunk a little more time. Because he doesn't want to kill Vegapunk. I think it's that simple. He's like, ooh, this is a valid reason for me to turn away and to do something else. And I'm still serving the government. I'm not breaking my vow. But how necessary was that, what they did there? Was it Bonnie? Was she a higher priority target? Atlas? Atlas is one of the Vegapunks, but you got the main Vegapunk right in front of you. You spare his life now, who knows what the hell can happen, right? So, Kuma, I guess. They're high priority targets. Are they higher priority than just... You work at light speed. How long would it take you to kill Vegapunk and then still go up there and do that? They were only halfway up to the lab phase. So, you're like I said, I'm going to reiterate. The man operates at light speed. You could easily kill Vegapunk and still get them before they make it to the lab phase. They're not working at that light speed. They're going fast, but they're not going that fast. So, he made a choice. I think it was intentional to give Vegapunk a little more time for what that would be worth. That's what I think. Also, I love how effing fast this thing is. They mean rocket. When they say rocket, they mean rocket. That point of view shot when they launch is awesome. We can't really show it here because I'll get blocked. But this is an awesome POV shot, man. I love this. What the hell is this? Yeah, this is coming from Frankie. When's the last time he's been like, what the hell is this technology? They said it takes 32 seconds. Now, they were approximately halfway there when he interrupted the flight. 16 seconds is forever when you operate at light speed. I'm just saying. Here he is. Yeah, let me take this opportunity. This is pretty effing intimidating, man. This dude, he's one intimidating ass dude, man. Since before the time skip, we've been getting intimidated by this sumbitch. Here's another thing. Saturn didn't object. I guess he feels like Vegapunk is sitting right here. He's not moving. He's not running. And you can get him anytime, but these people were actually trying to get away. So it probably makes sense to them too. And maybe it does make sense. Maybe this was the right chess move. And, Light Boy is not doing what I think he's doing. But it's, the wiggle room is such that, like, you could take it either way and he'd be safe, right? He's not going to be reprimanded for this decision he made. So, because it doesn't seem like Saturn's very upset about this. In fact, he does order the Pacificuses to shoot him down, right? He wants them dead. So he doesn't have a problem with what Light Boy did. Ordinarily, I would go in here and try to look at what the words are, but it's Japanese. So, and it's also not very clear. It's not supposed to be. It's just window dressing. I'm obsessed with this shit. If this was in English, I'd be scrutinizing every line. A lot of times it's just nonsense. There's shows back in the day, they didn't expect you to have a big screen TV or the ability to pause. So it'd just be nonsense. Sometimes inside jokes and shit, which we now can see. They never imagined anybody would be able to see it, right? Especially TV shows. Movies, big screen. But TV shows, they never imagined. So I'm always obsessively look at that shit because I love that kind of stuff. But in this case, I mean, who the hell knows? I didn't notice this before. She saw the Pacificuses and said "Dad." Now, I mean, obviously, she accesses memory, so she understands what's going on here. By the way, this is another great shot. Such a great shot. I love. There's so many great shots. This director, whoever directed this episode, was fantastic. Um, she accessed memories. I wonder if she had never encountered one of them in real life, though. Probably not, because typically, if you encounter them in real life and you're a pirate, you're dead. So she never. She's actually seeing them in person, and that's why she had the reaction she did. I think. Yeah, he's loving the fact. He says it's exquisite that the Pacific Justices will be the ones to kill her. Yeah, it is ironic. Speaking of Alanis Morissette, I saw an article today, complete and utter horseshit, saying we've been wrong about her for 30 years. Here's what she really meant in that song. Kiss my ass. You know what she meant in that song? She didn't know what the hell irony meant. And I think somebody else wrote the song, actually. Whoever it was that wrote it is an idiot. You don't know what irony means. She made millions of dollars. She said herself. She regrets doing the song, but is very successful. It made her a lot of money, so it is what it is. Like, she's got a pretty good attitude about it. Like, you know, she's taking it on the chin. But they're trying to polish her reputation after 30 years. Kiss my ass. Look, she made the money. She has to pay the iron price. That's how I feel about it. Like Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart doing the Twilight movies. You sold out. Dakota Johnson doing the 50 Shades of Grey movies. You sold out, man. You sold out. So you're going to make all this money. You made millions and millions of dollars off a script you knew was complete and utter shit. So you're going to catch these jokes. Like, no, don't be getting mad that we're making jokes. You're catching these jokes. You made the money. You're catching the jokes. There's a hell of a lot worse things you can do for money than getting made fun of. Believe me. If I can make $5 million, but people make fun of me for the rest of my life, guess what I'm doing? I'm making $5 million. That's what I'm doing. People can get. I'll catch these jokes. I don't care. So that's how I feel about them. Anyway, isn't it ironic? Yeah, this is Vegapunk. Why did you become a pirate? The worst possible scenario flashed on my mind that you'd be killed by one of the clones. Well, they're not really her dad. They look like him, but they're not him. I mean, you know. I guess the equivalent would be you're in the military and you get killed by people in the military so they have the same uniform you used to wear or whatever. I don't know. Cop. If she didn't know what they were, I think it'd be a hell of a lot more traumatic, which was a strange possibility back then. It's not great. You know, I get what he's saying. It's not great, but, you know, it's not like her. The worst case would have been her actual dad, the one that's holding her now, being ordered to kill her. That would be terrible. Which may be what he's talking about. Although it's the clones that are about to kill her, so I'm thinking specifically he's talking about the clones right now. This is a very interesting series of cliffhangers here. They jump from one to one. Oh, look at Atlas there. She's falling like this. It's hard to see my hands, but she's got her hands spread out. One leg kicked up. She has fallen, man. I know they're all falling. But she's got the most my ass is falling position of all of them. Where is Frankie in this shot? I don't see him. It's hard to tell. I guess he's not in the shot, but she's there. You got Kuma and Bonnie, of course. Frankie's probably like slightly above them, out of the shot, right? But anyway, so here's what they show us. They start with he's coming up to them. Now, who can he catch? Kuma's big fat ass? I don't think so. I think he's actually going to end up catching Atlas. Because she just has, I mean, she has rocket boots, but apparently she's not using them. So he's going to catch Atlas. Kuma's got Bonnie taken care of. Like, she's safe. When they land, Kuma's going to land on his back and keep her protected. So she'll be fine. Atlas, not so much. Frankie's going to have to fend for himself. I think he's going to actually catch Atlas. So then we show Frankie. He's going to have to figure something out because we ain't catching him either. Because, you know, Sanji just don't roll like that. And then we've got her. She is screwed, man. So he's going to catch her, I think. They're going to be fine. But that's what they show. They show Sanji, Frankie, Atlas, and these two. 4 people, all in the area. You know, with the way Sanji's going up there, he could be shot too, right? So we've also got it's not just the threat of the fall. It's the threat of the anti-aircraft fire that's about to descend upon them. So they're screwed. So that's about to come. So we've got that going on. Then we pivot to this to end the episode, which has been kind of foreshadowed and played with the entire episode. We didn't really know what was happening. I can only assume the one shot we saw where the Navy ship was fine and the other ship was burning was imagination and not reality. Unless both ships have sank. And maybe they have. I'm not sure. But this was a great way to end the episode. This just looks like the Navy ship so far. Well, this clearly is a Navy ship, but that's all we're seeing is a Navy ship. I like the random barrel, some rum or maybe some gunpowder just floating there, Escape vessel destruction failed. That's what I thought. So they didn't get him. So us seeing that vessel burning and the Navy ship victorious was imagination. It was not reality. And now we're seeing the things sink. So it's possible that death didn't come from below, that this was just setting this shot here up. But I don't know. Like, we were hearing them talk from this depth in this point of view, which implies that death came from below. And then they do the bubbles, right? They're definitely implying whatever happened from below. Interesting. You think it's any of the fishmen? I don't think so. The fishmen can rock and roll, but this is pretty far away from them, isn't it? Like, they are capable of leaving their home, but, I don't know why they'd be here. They are heading for Eggland, so it's not one person. I didn't pick up on that before. Now, this could be a translation thing. Tell him they are headed for Eggland. That's the kind of thing that can be mistranslated. So I'm not going to put too much stock into it, but that is interesting. And that would imply that it is a fisherman. Jimby's old crew or something. Okay, I thought I saw a foot, and I didn't see it this time. Let me go through this one more time. I thought one of the shots we saw the foot of somebody who had done it. Maybe I was seeing things. I don't know. I didn't catch it this time. No, I must have been seeing ghosts. Thought I saw it on the left-hand side of the screen. It may have been, you'll see when the reaction, I brought it up during the reaction. But I thought I saw the foot of somebody stepping toward it. I think it was when the guy was on the radio. Stepping forward to kill him or something, but there was nothing there. Well, another very interesting episode. Can't wait for the next one.